Good evening. The subject of my talk tonight is love, pain, and suffering. Of course, as a comfortably situated middle-aged bachelor, I must be quite an authority on pain and love, wouldn't you have thought? Now, by pain, I don't mean a nagging discomfort in the intestines. For that matter, by love, I don't mean a nagging discomfort in the intestines either. The question I will put to you this evening, and one which I will attempt to answer, is this. If God loves us, why does he allow us to suffer so much? War, pestilence, famine.
The story of Shadowlands is the story of C.S. Lewis meeting the love of his life. Of course, he was an older gentleman. I think he was 55 or so when he met her.
The love between C.S. Lewis and Joy Davidman Gresham, their meeting and their relationship with each other.
The story of C.S. Lewis, who in real life fell in love or was hunted down by a woman who was in love with him.
And he had not really had relationships with women before, and mother died when he was young. So this was a very surprising relationship to him. He had carried on a correspondence with this lady in America.
But she finds him, and they establish quite a warm friendship, which is the best that she can get.
And she was extremely intelligent and related to him quickly once they met.
Wonderful, gutsy, ballsy, Yankee woman. She flew across the ocean. I'm quite convinced that she was in love with C.S. Lewis, and that was her agenda all along. But
their civil marriage and then her illness, a developing affection on C.S. Lewis's part for her, which she apparently already had full-blown for him.
And unfortunately developed an illness, and so a lot of their relationship revolved around her illness.
And his eventually marrying her in the church, and their love for each other, a very fulfilling 3 years during which her cancer was in remission. And this was a very joyous time in their lives.
And then as her life was in jeopardy, they are able to recognize their love for each other and have a wonderful 3-year romance before she dies.
Douglas will be here until a week from Wednesday. So much. Must be so much still. This is the meat, what we've been going through on Thursday and today is the meat. Yes. Right. I'm not really feeling what's happening. You say it. That was good. I believed it.
This is just a shadow of something.
We don't know where this came from.
That's where it started. Experience is a brutal teacher. What's one thing you need to know? You won't rock anymore. What is he? Enlightenment. take it. Here, boy.
This is Douglas.
Hello, Douglas.
Is that him?
Make that distinction.
Sure would like to see her again.
Me too.
Well, when I decided I wanted to do Shadowlands years ago, I first thought, well, I'll do C.S. Lewis because it's such a rich role, and I thought how wonderful for me to be able to play C.S. But after meeting and knowing John for a while, it became very evident to me that he would be so wonderful in this role. Not only because he even sort of looks like him, but John's way of thinking, I think, is very similar to C.S. Lewis's. And also, I knew that he had the instincts as an actor to be able to sell this message that the play has.
I worked together with him on several other productions, and he figured that for some reason that I would be a good one to play that role. And so he asked me if I would do it. I didn't even have to think about it very much and said yes. So that's how I got into the role.
And so I can hear C.S. in John. And I don't know if it's just channeling or good acting or even just guessing, but he does a great job with it. And that's the reason we're having sold out houses, is because the word's on the street that John is so good in this role, and the whole production complements that.
To be real honest, the biggest challenge for me was just the sheer memorization of this script. I've been in several plays before, but I've never been the lead character in a play before, and never had anywhere near this much to memorize. So just getting it down has been difficult.
Gerald and I both had offices at the Historical Society. So I would tell Gerald that I would really like to be in a play sometime.
And I'm delighted to have Sarah, because when I met Sarah, it struck me in the back of my mind that she might be a good Joy, because she's from the Northeast and is from a Texas personality. And that was apparently what Joy Davidman was. She was a writer, a thinker, and for the Northeast, they're a little brasher and a little more out there, a little more aggressive in personality, especially of the female persuasion.
So Gerald came up to me one day. I was getting into my car in front of it from our office, and Gerald said, "I think I got the part for you. It's a Yankee, Jewish, communist, middle-aged lady." And I said, "Gee, Gerald, how come you thought of me?"
And I knew Sarah would cover that really well. Happily, she took to the role personally and decided that this was a character she really liked.
But as I got to know her, I completely fell in love with Joy. She was a funny, gutsy, wonderful lady, and I will admit I became extremely fond of her. So then it became about representing her well, authentically and well, because I think she must have been an incredible lady.
Generally, when you have an actor that likes the character they're playing, they become so much better at it.
Recreating the emotions was not hard. As I fell in love with Joy, I got doing the emotional part wasn't hard. So when I started working with John, just the whole chemistry between C.S. Lewis and Joy, I just really felt alive working with John on stage. So that wasn't hard. It was the fall. I just could not imagine how I was, the joke being that I tend to fall in life and I'm always terrified of falling. So all of a sudden I had to fall on purpose. It's like, how am I actually going to get to the ground? That was the biggest hurdle of the whole play for me.
Jack Grimmer, Jack's a good stalwart in everything we've done, and he just looks like Warney now. He just fits that crotchety English gentleman bachelor.
My friend's mom said that no one auditioned for the part, and she thought I'd be a good fit for the part, so she said she put my name in the pot, and she said, "Is that okay?"
And then David Mustard, who's a little old for Douglas in real life, but plays him beautifully, and he has such a good face, and he's a very smart, bright young person.
The next day, Dr. Hoover called, and he said, "I look forward to seeing you." So.
Shadowlands is a story of love and loss.
Is the taking of faith from the philosophical and the conceptual to the real and the experiential. He's finally had the experience to either back up or refute all the things he's been talking about with faith.
But there, in some ways, this play is about the education of a highly educated man by having him go through the crucible of experience in learning in his own life many of the things that he was preaching.
He now has this experience through this love in marriage with Joy Davidman that proves or disproves what he has said about suffering and faith and how God uses that to hone us into something else.
He experienced the love of a woman, and that kind of love he was experiencing for the first time in his mid to late 50s. And of course, to lose someone with whom he had fallen in love was certainly a very intense experience for him.
And it's what's really, for me, what's so beautiful about it, it's about how safe it is to go through life without love and why it's worth going through the suffering of love in order to have the treasure. That's what it's about for me.
So you could say, if you like, that Jack Lewis has no answer to the question after all, except this. I have been given the choice twice in my life. The boy chose safety. The man chooses suffering. I went to my wardrobe this morning. I was looking for my old brown jacket, the one I used to wear before. I'd forgotten that you'd carried out one of your purges there, just before we went to Greece, I think it was. Mrs. Gresham. How are you?
Are you being offensive or married student? Books in the shelves.
Books in the shelves. Any particular order?
Just put them where they'll fit. I'll sort them out later. We're all alone, are married, and we're up to nothing at all.
I don't feel in any way.
Technically married, of course.
Douglas, there's some fruitcake and some hot squash if you want. Wasn't going to come, then I thought I would. Life must go on.